Brace for impact. Cross the line.
This is my destiny. It is the truth I see. In this world I find a way to cross the line. Everybody's doing what everybody's doing. Everybody's doing the same thing. I'll be doing what I'll be doing. I'll be doing my thing. The world spins round to the right, they say. I'll be spinning the other way. Doing what I can, doing what I know. The world's my stage and I'm the show. It is my destiny. It is the truth I seek. In this world I find a way to cross the line. No possibilities for originality. Don't be left behind. Go ahead and cross the line.
Hey, now it's Brace for Impact, and I'm your host, Mike Gilbert, and I'm going solo on that ass, but it's still the same. We're talking TNA wrestling, and what a week it's been for TNA. One of the most newsworthy weeks in the history of the company, really. And as far as like newsworthy weeks, like good news, it's been a long time since this company's had some really good freaking news. And of course, the news I'm talking about is the news that we've been waiting on since 2021. I covered it earlier in the week. I must say, I'm going to give myself some credit here. Now, while John Alba was the first to report that AMC was in play and that he thought that they were going to AMC, Mike Gilbert was the first one to actually go out public with the fact that they had signed a deal with AMC. Now, I don't have any details, but once AMC put out that teaser, I was notified like within seconds that yes, that's what that was, and you can go with it. Essentially, the conversation didn't quite go down like that, but that's the way that I took that conversation that I was having, and it was somebody pretty close to the situation. So, and I'm not going to say if it was TNA side or TV side or what, if it was agent side, nothing. You guys are not going to get that out of me, but I just want everybody to know that while John Alba was the first to report that AMC was in play, Mike Gilbert was the first one to confirm that it was a live deal, that the network deal had been done. They're moving to AMC on January 15th, 2026. It'll be live from Dallas, Texas, in the Curtis Culwell Center, which is where Genesis was at last year. They had a big show there, and it'll be from 9 to 11. And so let's talk about that. So housekeeping, and King, I'm going to get to you in a sec, but housekeeping. First and foremost, I'm not going live at 11 p.m. So this podcast is gonna obviously it's gonna change. It might revert back to what it was whenever I was in Hawaii. I like doing podcasts at 10 p.m. I think this is cool, man. Sometimes I don't always get to do it. Family gets in the way of that. Like I have, obviously the two little ones, and sometimes bedtime can be an issue. Or there's also I get up at 5 a.m, so sometimes I like at 10 o'clock I just can't make it. I'm telling you guys right now, 11 o'clock I can't do. I might do the first one. Because Fridays I do work from home. I don't have to drive an hour into work on Friday mornings, but I still got to get up because my daughter's school starts like 7:30 in the morning. And so we got to get her there. We usually try to get her there like 7:15. So I say all that to say is like I am not willing to forego a ton of sleep for covering TNA Impact, but I will still cover it. I'm just probably not going to be staying up like super late. So only because I'm an early riser. If I didn't have to get up so early in the morning and the next day, I would most likely do it. But King of the North, my man, the man who said this deal was never coming. He was among many of the AEW sickos, although King did turn his back on them recently when the FTR, better known as Find the Remote, as King would say, won the AEW tag titles off of Brodito at the last pay-per-view. He turned his back on his favorite promotion. I never turned my back on TNA. I never went on Twitter and wished death upon them. I never threatened. I never went out and said that everybody should be fired and that they suck. Actually, I've done all those things, and I've done them all recently. But yeah, he says, "Congrats to me, Gerard IO BQ. Thank you, sir." And Gerard says, "I mentioned that I was the first one to get it and hyped you up when I went live earlier. So thank you for that. I have not had a chance to see that, but I do try to check out your live feeds there, Gerard." Gerard's been on this story since 2021, since Len Asper made that ill-fated tweet that a big new distribution deal was coming, and that's when Gerard BNDD was born. He was on that story for the last 4.5 years, man, and it has been a long ride. I couldn't be happier for the company, to be honest with you. I'm super excited for them. I'm nervous for them a little bit, and I'm going to get into that in a little bit, but I'm like excited for them. It's been a long time coming. Access TV has been death. And we'll go all the way back to, like, this is the best TV deal they've had since they lost Spike. Destination America was not a good channel, and the show started to die a slow death there. Pop TV actually was in a lot of homes, but it wasn't a TV network that a lot of people were watching, even though they had the channel. It's because Pop TV, just a few years prior to TNA being on that network, was the TV Guide channel. So like we all had it, but it wasn't like we were watching we were watching it. And like they had Schitt's Creek, and they had, reruns of the Gilmore Girls and Days of Our Lives, and that was what the channel was. So TNA never really fit the network. And then when they got shit canned off of that one, so they lost, 3 different networks. So they were on Pop for I think like 3 years, but they got shit canned off of there, and that's when they went to Pursuit, and then ultimately Anthem, and I think partially, and it's been reported as such. I don't know how true it is, but it's been the rumor for years that Anthem purchased Access TV to put TNA on it, and they've been on it since 2019, so 6 years, and it's been a wild ride, and I'm happy for them. I really am. I'm happy for the talent and the staff that work there specifically. You could always ask the question, like, what is the talent really getting out of this? Well, it's just going to be a bigger platform for them to be able to grow their brand and ply their trade. TNA, I don't know what the money situation is like for this deal. Blake Avignon has he came out saying that it was approximately a $30 million deal. However many years that is, I don't know. Whenever I heard about AMC back in September, and I'm pretty sure I showed Gerard the text. I didn't show who it came from, but I had a text. I had to go back through my text, and it was on September 23rd. And what I had heard was that AMC was in play at that point, and that it was possibly a revenue share deal. And if what they got here with AMC is a revenue share deal, like, again, I don't know that that's the case. So don't act like I'm reporting that. I'm just not. I think that's okay too, right? If they just get a share in the revenue from the TV show, and what that would look like, I don't know. As so long as they also get, money for production, which is what AEW was whenever they first signed with TNT. I'm pretty sure that it was like they did a production split and a revenue split, and that's how they did it. And then they kind of earned their stripes that way. And then a few months into the deal, they actually overperformed it. They were able to negotiate a longer term deal for relatively lower money compared to what they're making right now. And then a couple years after that, they were able to get $185 million. So if this is what TNA has as a prove it deal, I think it's a good opportunity, and an opportunity that I have some reservations about, but I'm excited for them to get this opportunity. And sometimes all you need is your foot in the door, and then you can knock it out of the park. I don't know that they will. Like I said, I have my doubts about this creative team, and I've been pretty vocal about that, and I'm going to get into that in a little bit too. But I just want to get some more details of the TV deal. So yeah, it's going to start January 15, 9 p.m. It'll be live for the first week. They're going to go live from Curtis Culwell Arena there in Dallas, Texas. And then they're going to go live for Genesis 2 nights later. And I believe the tickets go on sale for that next week. So I talked about this on Patreon. I believe that the idea behind that was the idea behind that was they wanted to get the tickets on sale for the Impact show, the live Impact, and get people focused on that first, and then get them focused on Genesis. And so they're rolling out the ticket sales for Genesis like a week later, which I don't think that's a bad idea at all. They're going to need to have a big hook because that's a pretty big venue. So they're going to need a hook to be able to get people in there, live on Thursday and then live 2 nights later. But hold on, let me see. Javier's in the chat. Confirmed also that they'll also go live Thursday after Genesis. Yes. So they're going to go live on the 15th, live on the 17th for the pay-per-view, for the Genesis pay-per-view. And then they're going to go live on the 22nd from the ABQ from Albuquerque, which they've already advertised as being the home of Breaking Bad. Now, if they're going to do some crossover, would it be cool to see Heisenberg on there? Oh, yeah, of course. But who do I want to see? I want to see motherfucking ASAC Schrader. I want to see the brother-in-law that was the cop, the detective. I know he died in the show, so maybe like they don't want to break kayfabe. Or they can get Jesse Pinkman, of course, and then he had his lackeys that was on that show. That I think Sean Ross Sapp was the first one. I can't remember the lackeys' names, but I think it was Sapp that said that they need those guys to be in the treehouse with the Rascals, and I was like, that's the perfect thing to do. I don't know that they could get Don Draper. I don't think they can get that guy because he's like a big star now, and but maybe they could get some other folks from smaller shows. Could they get Daryl Dixon? I don't know. Like he was in Boondock Saints and then he was in The Walking Dead forever. I don't think he's that big of a star though. But he's a big star for this network. Could they get him? Like it would be kind of cool to see some of those like, famous AMC stars. Maybe they can get Bob Odenkirk, from Better Call Saul and all these other places. But I'm excited for those possibilities. But yeah, so live on the 22nd, and then they're going to tape on the 23rd. So we're going to get a mixture of live and tape. And Carlos Silva, I've listened to all his interviews. He was on, he did several of them, and he has explained that. So the first 6 months, they're going to be kind of figuring out their budget, and then maybe they're going to go harder 6 months into the deal. That tells me that more money kicks in after the 6 month mark. Like, I don't know that for a fact. That's just my guess. That the first 6 months they're going to be playing it safe, and then once they hit that 6 month mark, maybe there's some markers they need to hit, and then that will unlock some more funds their way for production and things like that, and then maybe they can go live more often. But we'll see. It's an exciting time, man. It's an exciting time, and I got some ideas for them. And but what I want to do first is get to the chat. XWF says hello, and Alter the Squirrel is in the house. Alter, my friend, he is here. And let's see. Dre Aomin, my boy from Chicago, says TNA on AMC has a nice ring to it. Praying the creative gets overhauled. We're gonna go in on creative here in a minute, but I wanted to start off positive. Okay, I wanted to start off positive. King of the North says, "Fire the Revolver." Yes, yeah. You're completely wrong about FTR. By the way, they're one of my favorite tag teams. I love them. Impact 88 says, when TNA goes to AMC, can you still watch Impact on TNA Plus Live? Yes, thank you for reminding me that. So yeah, so it is on. It's going to be on AMC, the cable channel, which is a basic channel that I have it on my YouTube TV. So for the first time, I'm going to have legal access to Access TV. I've had it other means, but I will have I won't go to jail for the way that I have it now because I'm a YouTube TV subscriber. So it's on my basic package, and most every cable company has it as part of their basic tier. It's a really big channel. They haven't really had it like a big hit show as of late, but they have a history of big hit shows, and so but because of that, they're getting into the live television, live sports entertainment business, and how they're dipping their toe in as they're bringing on TNA, and so. But yeah, so you can watch on AMC, AMC Plus, and TNA Plus. So the TNA Plus component still being a part of it tells me that they're probably not getting as much money as originally had anticipated. So, well, maybe they thought that 10 million was going to be the marker. Maybe that comes down a little bit because TNA Plus is still going to have it. So I think on Tuesday I went live and I was questioning whether or not TNA Plus was still going to be a thing. I think ideally in future state, AMC Plus swallows TNA Plus, at least domestically in the US, for the simple fact of arithmetic, right? AMC Plus has 10 million subscribers now. I personally have never met one, but I know they exist. That's the number that's on the books. TNA Plus has 21,000 last we checked. So there's a big difference there. So I think future state, if they can get all the pay-per-views, get live TNA, get the library on AMC Plus and their family of apps. They got all the different apps. I think that would be best for everybody involved, but they just didn't get that deal worked out. But I think that's a deal that could be worked out later. Yeah, look at AEW and Time Warner or WBD. It took a while, but they eventually got themselves on the Max, and so maybe like they gotta just perform well on AMC, and then eventually maybe they'll get all the big shows on AMC Plus. But I think future state, that's what's best for them. Now, if they could work it out to where they can get all their pay-per-views onto Peacock, now that would be best for everybody, like for TNA for sure, because there's already a market on Peacock for that. But if they just want to get like synergy with AMC and go all in with those guys, I think that would be cool too. King says, you and I went back and forth about with Lena Cross, but like, are they going to reward the talent that got them this deal with their hard work with contracts? So are they going to just give everybody a raise willy-nilly? No, that's not how it works in the States. You don't just do that. When their contracts come due, are they going to be in a better position to be able to give them a bump in pay better than they were before? Absolutely. So, and I just bring up Ace Austin. Ace Austin didn't leave TNA to go to AEW. There was a gap in time there. He left because he wanted a raise, and TNA was not in a position to be able to give them that because they're not getting a rights fee, right? And Ace Austin's a great wrestler, and he's been a homegrown talent and had been a great talent and deserved a raise, but he's not bringing in the revenue to be able to warrant that, right? So while other guys that are kind of like at the top of the cards that have bigger names are probably going to get bumps in pay and stuff like that because they're bringing in more revenue, like they not deserves a strong word, but you guys kind of get what I'm saying, right? Like a guy with a bigger name is probably going to be able to negotiate themselves a bigger salary versus a guy like Ace Austin, who's a great worker and a homegrown talent, and like just by how hard he works, he deserves it, but he wasn't generating the revenue to be able to justify it. And you got a guy like Carlos Silva, who never heard of Ace Austin until he met him when he first came in on the job, and is not going to do a deal like that out of the goodness of his heart. That's just not how it works. Like he's like Carlos Silva, more of a businessman with that stuff. So are they going to get new contracts willy-nilly? Is everybody going to get a bump and pay across the board? No, but there is like a large percentage of the contracts that they signed are coming due at the end of the year at the end of this year, and a lot of them, in anticipation of this TV deal being locked in, had not signed yet. So you're going to get a lot of the talent that their contracts are due. I get the feeling they held out, and it was a smart idea because they're very likely going to get a bump in pay, a significant bump in pay. I don't know how much this TV deal is worth. They're going to be able to afford talent better, but I don't think they're going to be throwing around, getting into the high six figures for a lot of these folks. They can't do that. Like they're still not there yet, right? This solidifies them as a solid number 3. This puts them on better footing, but this doesn't get them close to being able to negotiate against an AEW or WWE. It's just not going to happen. Will they be able to sign some big stars because of this deal? Yeah, I think so. Will it raise the floor a little bit for some of the talent on lower level? Yeah. But if you're like a guy kind of in the mid card or the bottom of the card, and you're negotiating with TNA and you're negotiating with AEW, AEW's bottom of the card money is going to be significantly higher than TNA's bottom of the card money. But if you're a top of the TNA card and you're negotiating with AEW to be at the bottom of their card, it's probably pretty comparable. And maybe TNA would actually pay you more at that point, probably significant more. And so you probably would stay with TNA, right? It just depends on the situation of each talent. It's all situationally dependent. What's the growth potential of the talent? If you're a young guy like an Ace Austin, you have more room for growth, more room to make more money if you go to AEW versus TNA, right? The ceiling for TNA is much lower than the ceiling for AEW. The ceiling for AEW is lower than the ceiling for WWE. That's just the hierarchy of where it is. So it's just based off of where talents see themselves at and where they're, where the companies see them at and what their growth potential is like. And so, but with this deal, I do believe that this deal is going to help them be able to secure talent longer term. A lot of their talent they're on some of them are on 90-day deals. Some of them are on day-to-day deals. Others are, 6 months, 9 months, a year. Then you got, your guys like, Moose, I think is probably on multiple years, and other people might be on multiple years. And you got Nick Nemeth and Matt Cardona. They're just working dates essentially. They're just independent contractors, and they just kind of show up, and work most of the dates throughout the year. And regardless of how good their push is they typically will take independent dates sometimes over TNA because the independent date is paying more. So maybe it'll help them secure guys like that longer term too, and be able to get themselves in a position to become the priority for a lot of these talents. And that has been a struggle for them. They have not been able to be the priority for a lot of these folks. It's just another booking, and now they're on this network that's the bigger platform. You're gonna want to take the TNA booking over a lot of other bookings because of that. So it's all a positive. Okay. Gerard says that hype video promoting AMC to open the show tonight was incredible. Yeah, I thought that was pretty good. Will any of the talent see this TV money with full-time wrestling employment with the company? You would think so, right? If the more revenues coming in, some of that's got to trickle down to the talent. It depends on the talent's leverage, but the company, they're not just going to get more money and then just start handing out cash to people. It's just not how it works. You got to negotiate that stuff. Okay, let's see. Let me see. Let me get a couple more, and then I do want to get some. Let's see. Gerard says they lose the slow burn. They're making us wait for Danny. Yeah, and so zero reason they can't get more money out of this, and him generating the revenue. Him not generating revenue is a TNA problem. That's not necessarily true. I think it's just the position that they're in, right? And most wrestlers don't generate revenue for companies. They don't. Most of them don't, right? Very few people in pro wrestling are draws. Everybody else is just lucky to be there. That's just the way it is. Some can sell T-shirts, right? But most people don't sell tickets. So most people don't sell sponsorships. Most people don't sell ad rates. Most people don't sell pay-per-views, right? Very few people do. And so, it's incumbent, the creative team has to be able to get the talent over, but the talent also has to get over. And sometimes they have to do that outside the company and bring that to TNA to create leverage for themselves, right? They have to market themselves into becoming a bigger star. So it's not one company. It's not like this person's problem versus this person's problem. It's everybody's problem, right? It's just the way it is. It's not everybody's a draw, right? And not everybody's gonna make a ton of money. And Ace Austin, I love the guy. He hasn't really done a whole lot on AEW. And I'm hoping that he climbs up the card, and I have a lot of faith in him that he's a really talented guy. But we'll see. Was TNA wrong about him, or was AEW wrong about him, or is Ace Austin just who he is at this point? I don't like putting a ceiling on a guy. So, but we'll learn. Was it TNA's fault this whole time, right? Or is it just you're limited what you can do with a guy like Ace Austin, right? Let's see. Rustin Cover says, not going to lie, it's been very surprising to me that Nick Nemeth is still around after almost 2 years now. I thought he'd be gone after he lost the belt. I'm glad he's still there. You know, he's done a pretty good job with TNA. I think it would just be better for TNA if he would commit to them. And he's kind of always kind of had 1 foot in, 1 foot out. And so that's the issue with Nick Nemeth. He doesn't want to fully commit to TNA. He was in WWE for 20 years or whatever it was, and he said he doesn't want to commit to TNA. I get the feeling if WWE wanted him back, he would be willing to commit to them, right? It's the same thing with Matt Cardona. Matt Cardona has turned down like contract offers from TNA, and his excuse was, "Well, I just don't want to be tied down by anybody right now." It's kind of like that hot girl that says no, she doesn't want to marry you, and then like you guys break up, and 6 months later she's married. It's like to somebody else. Like it's like one of those situations. There's a guy named Chris Gallegos in the chat. You're being a troll. I'm not going to put your stuff in on the thing. I'm not going to acknowledge it. So you can keep putting your stuff in there, but it's not worth anybody's time. Okay. So let's get to the issue with creative. So Fightful had a report that whenever they reached out to talent got back to them and said, yeah, we're really excited about this AMC, the TV deal. But a lot of them said, but the creative is not good. And I said some stuff in public and I got reaction from some people in the company and they're agreeing with me. They're not being quiet about this. They're really not. They're telling a lot of people that they're not happy with the creative. People seem to be happy with Tommy Dreamer as head of talent relations. A lot of people like Tommy Dreamer. I've been tough on Tommy and I've blamed everything on Tommy. I think he's an easy guy to blame stuff on. He can be a bit of a punching bag. I don't know how much at fault the creative issues in the company are for I don't know how much that lays on his lap. But the way people talk about him makes me think that it's not really like a Tommy Dreamer issue. But we've seen people publicly defend Tommy today, and nobody's publicly defending Delirious. If you guys want to point a finger at somebody. Now, I never thought I'd be on this podcast like defending Tommy Dreamer, but that's just my read on the situation. I could be wrong. But the reaction that I've gotten from some of the talent and some of the staff is that they're not happy with the creative direction of this company. And I completely agree with them, and I've been really tough on them. I've been, downright mean, to be honest with you, because I see them have this opportunity and I get the feeling they're going to blow it. And I'm trying to get the narrative out there. And I want everybody to be on the same page that the TV show Impact that aired in 2025 on Access TV, it cannot be the same level that airs on AMC. Talking like creatively and production wise, it cannot be the same. If it is the same, if they don't improve, it's going to flop. More eyes and more scrutiny on this company could be a bad thing because they've been hiding on Access TV for years. These WWE fans that have been propping them up and proclaiming them as the number 2 company and all this and that, and then that have actually been buying tickets to the shows and been going to the shows, don't actually watch the TV show. So they don't know how bad the creative has been. Now, a lot of people will come to this podcast and their entire identity is based around being positive TNA fans, and I get that, and that's their online gimmick, and I respect it. But I think you're fooling yourselves if you think that this is a good television show, and that you're fooling yourselves that the reason why that TNA was able to get this deal with AMC is because of the quality of the creative. And in fact, they're getting this deal with AMC in spite of the quality of the creative. They got the deal with AMC, and Carlos Silva said it several times in several interviews because of the relationship with WWE. Full stop. Right. And he very much credits them, and he's smart to do that because I don't think this guy Carlos is a liar other than ticket sales. I didn't, and he wasn't the one that came out and announced the ticket sales. I don't think this guy, if you ask him an honest question, he'll give you an honest answer. That's my just read on the guy. And that is my impression, and he's been giving all the credit to WWE. Now he said that he negotiated on behalf of TNA and CAA, the talent agency, were they led the negotiations with the TV companies, and that WWE just being their partner opened up a lot of doors for them. And while the WWE didn't go and negotiate on their behalf, the fact of the matter is that WWE becoming their partner opened up these bigger venues for them, and opened up the opportunity for them to be able to sell all the tickets that they've been selling. And it has created this illusion that this company is big time and on fire, when in fact nobody was watching the television show, and they couldn't sit there and poke holes in all of the creative, right? With all the start and stops pushes for all the different people, the bland paint by numbers booking, and the repeating of all the angles that they've been repeating, like the TNA women's knockouts tag team championships. They've recycled the same story for 4 years in a row. It's been the same exact story. Team gets formed, team wins title. New team gets formed, that team wins title. Old team breaks up, new team enters the picture. It has been the same recycled storyline for 4 years, and they've been rotating the same 2 or 3 tag teams, right? And it has been similar with a lot of the men until the Hardys got there, the men's tag team division too, with some of the turns and like the factions and stuff that they've been doing. Like, the system is almost a carbon copy of, Death Before Dishonor or whatever it was called. Honor No More. It was kind of a similar thing, except for those guys all came in from Ring of Honor, and they, but they had kind of a similar vibe. And, that didn't last very long. And then eventually Eddie Edwards started a new faction. It was the System. And I happen to enjoy the System because I'm a fan of Eddie and Moose and Brian Myers. Not so much Fandango, but I thought Eddie and Brian Myers were a really good tag team. Then you fast forward to the Mike Santana angle. And that angle is a carbon copy of the Josh Alexander angle from 3 years ago. It's the same damn thing. You got Eric Young doing this gimmick where he's talking about a cleanse coming, and he was with Violent by Design for years with him and Joe Doring and Cody Deaner, and then he ends up going to WWE, and they essentially stabbed him and killed him in prison. And he goes to WWE, and then he comes back as a babyface. The babyface doesn't work out. And so now it looks like he's trying to restart Violent by Design, but he's been doing the same backstage vignettes since September. He's got random people in the crowd and random people backstage with these masks on, and nobody knows what the fuck is going on. I get the feeling it's just going to end one day and it's never going to go anywhere. And I feel pretty confident in that, and I hope I'm wrong. I feel pretty confident in that because I've seen this company do starts and stops with things going nowhere. You guys remember the Aztec Warriors? They built up this new luchador tag team with Laredo Kid and Octagon Jr. They were in for like 2 tapings. And then like they lost both the talents. Jake Something has been back and forth heel several times, and he recently turned heel again. He joined up with Frankie Kazarian. Frankie convinced him to turn heel. He turned heel, helped Frankie win a match, and they haven't been seen together on screen since. But yet Jake is still a heel with no direction. I can go on and on. Like the amount of failed storylines that they've had, and start and stop storylines where they just pick something up and they push somebody for a couple weeks and they just forget about it. It's been ridiculous. And then you can go in with the NXT partnership. The NXT partnership has, as far as creatively, has been a flop. It's been a success at the box office, and now 2 things can be true at the same time. WWE fans have been told it's okay to support TNA, so they've been showing up. But creatively, it's been a flop. It doesn't make any goddamn sense. Kalani Jordan becoming the Knockouts champion and then representing TNA in that fucking Showdown show was one of the dumbest goddamn things I've ever seen in my life. And it was at that point where I personally knew that TNA wrestlers were fed up with the creative direction of the company. They got these NXT kids coming in and taking up a lot of the TV time, having to put them over, and they're not half as good as they are. And they, they're these pampered kids coming in, and I don't blame the NXT kids. Like they're just, they're being told to go there. They're just doing their job of taking a booking. And, but they're coming in and they're shining over the TNA talent. Now, the NXT stars have lost a lot, but then you look at like Trick Williams was the champion for a while, and I'm sure a lot of people liked him, and I thought he did a pretty decent job. It couldn't have made the talent there feel good, and it makes it seem like nobody on the roster was good enough to be champion, so they had to bring in somebody from the outside. So it's like, what does it say about your roster? And then they did it with JC Jane, and then they turned around and did the same thing with Kalani Jordan because of the whole Ash thing, and they couldn't figure out what they were doing. And I could just go on and on and on. The TV show that we saw tonight cannot be the same TV show that we see in AMC. Just low energy, nothing interesting. For a TV show that calls itself total nonstop action, there was hardly any action. It was very slow, methodical, disinterested fans sitting in the audience who couldn't be bothered to enjoy the show. And I'm not blaming the fans. I was like, you guys didn't give them something good enough, right? Those fans, if there were an NXT show, they'd be all over the place. They'd be cheering their asses off. But TNA, you're not doing a good enough job, guys. And it comes down to the creative, and it comes down to the production. So tonight we had on the show, and I'm going to get into the play-by-play of the show, but I just want to hit a couple more talking points. But tonight we had this great video package with In the Air Tonight, a cover version of it, like more of a rock with like some chick singing. It was really, really good. And that was how they opened the show. And then they immediately kicked it to a hometown man match. It's like, the fuck are we doing? Like, I'm not like a hometown man hater. Okay. I'm not. But you start the show off hot and then you go to some fucking goof, right? Now, undercard goofs have been in wrestling forever, and I think the hometown man, as far as being an undercard goof, a comedy guy, he plays his role pretty well. Cody Deaner, he's a versatile performer, so got to give the guy credit. But that's the first thing you see. That's the first match we're seeing, and we're seeing he's in a match with Bad Body Brooks Jensen, right? Just a very wholly uninteresting wrestler from NXT, who is very likely going to get cut one day. And that's what we see. Like, that's the first fucking match after we announced this big TV deal. You know, people are like, oh man, TNA's cooking, right? They got something big. And maybe I'm going to turn on TNA on Access tonight for the first time in a long time, see what they got cooking. And then you turn it on and it's fucking hometown man and Brooks Jensen. It's like, nobody's interested. Nobody wants to see that. Nobody wants to see that. It's pretty fucking wild. I'm gonna say it again because I think Carlos Silva needs to hear this. I think Tommy Dreamer needs to hear this, and Delirious needs to hear this. Tommy and Delirious are safe. They're not going anywhere. They're not getting fired. So I'm done calling for their jobs. And I think people take that personally. I last year, the 49ers defensive coordinator, I called for him to get fired. Nobody got mad at me, but I called for the fucking creative team, the offensive coordinator for TNA, to get fired. Now I'm a dick, right? Like, so okay. But I'm going to say this again. The TV show and the product that they put on in 2025 cannot continue in its current form. If it does, this show is going to be a major flop. And Anthem's going to pull the fucking plug on this thing because they're not going back to Access, and Anthem's not buying another channel. So if this AMC thing doesn't work, they're fucking done. And the only reason it's not going to work is because they decided to keep the TV show as is right now because they're sniffing their own farts. They were listening to the toxic positivity accounts instead of the real motherfuckers like myself and BQ that watch the show and Gerard that watch the show and will tell you when things are not going well. And that's going to be their undoing. That's what's going to kill it. So they need to fucking shape up. They need some new creative minds. They need to fucking hire John Muse, you goddamn idiots. He's right fucking there. And he knows what he's doing. They need to bring in some young creative minds from around pro wrestling or even from fucking AMC. Like, I don't know, dude. They got to do something because the show stinks right now. The quarter 4 TNA has been the worst I've ever seen. They took a fucking month off after Bound for Glory. Now we did just find out why. And I knew why, but I didn't have the evidence to back it up. Now Sean Rossap has come out with the report. that the reason why they took a month off after Bound for Glory wasn't because they're preparing for this TV deal. It's because they ran over budget. Like, that was for budgetary reasons. So for all of you that said, "Oh no, TNA is just giving their talent time off," you guys are fucking morons. If you believe that, butt sniffing morons is what you are. But so that's where they're at. Look, I started with good news, then I became a dick again. That's just me. All right, couple more topics, and then I'm going to get to tonight's TV show. If you guys got a topic that you want me to hit in the chat, you got questions for me about the future of TNA. If you want to throw some topics my way, go ahead and throw them my way. If I get rant and raven and I miss it, you can avoid that by throwing down a super chat. So I would appreciate that. That's how we were able to do this. But so creative, we can all agree, needs to be overhauled for sure. One thing that needs to improve is the roster, right? The roster that they have is, I don't think it's a bad roster, but I don't think it's a major television network worthy roster at this point. You know, they just lost Joe Hendry, which, you know, we saw coming. So who do they have at the top? Mike Santana. I think Mike Santana is great. I think Frankie Kazarian, I think the character he plays right now is not a main event character, but I think he's a really good wrestler. A little on the old side. Then you got the Hardy Boys. The Hardy Boys are the ones drawing the houses, and they're like the face of this new TV show. I think they've done a great job with TNA. But again, a little on the old side, right? Nick Nemeth, a little on the old side. Eddie Edwards and Moose, over 40. Brian Myers, over 40. Matt Cardona, 40. All good talents, but there's a pattern. And what's another pattern? Outside of the Hardy Boys, none of them are selling tickets, right? It's just like Joe Hendry was before the Hardys got there. Hardys came in, they blew him away. And he was like down on the depth chart under them, not too far, but down on the depth chart behind them. So much so that he's left, and they haven't really seen a significant difference because we have the Hardys. So chat, throw out some names of who you guys think we might want to see. I have some names, and the first name that I want to talk about right now is a name that I keep hearing being tossed out there. And if they're going to go on a big network, they might need a big star. I think they need to get younger and fresher, but I also think they need to get big stars. And that's really what people care about for television. That's what big TV network execs like. They like big name stars. How did WCW get to where they were? They brought in Hulk Hogan and Randy Savage, and then they did the NWO angle, right? Like that's how they got to where they were at, right? How did AEW get to where they were at? Well, they weren't getting on TNT with just like, I know they might have had a deal in principle, but they weren't going to get to the success that they had without Chris Jericho and John Moxley. It just wasn't going to happen. And those two guys really set the stage for a big part of their success. You know, the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega were great, you know, in Japan, and great Ring of Honor level stars, but they weren't big TV network stars. Well, it just so happens that Chris Jericho is becoming a free agent soon. Now, all signs are pointing to him heading to the WWE, but the WWE, as it stands right now, it looks like they want him to do a retirement tour. I've been following Chris Jericho a long time. He is a big fan of the Rolling Stones. He's a big fan of Paul McCartney, big fan of Kiss. I don't think that guy wants to retire. And he's in really good shape right now. I don't think that he would want to do a retirement tour with the WWE. So if the reports are that the WWE wants him to do a retirement tour, and I don't think he has anything left to do in AEW, and I think the AEW fans don't want anything to do with him, to be honest with you. They feel like it's ran its course and that he's holding the roster back. Where he can make the biggest difference would be TNA. Now, again, I don't think it's going to happen. I just want to put that out there. But if TNA wanted to make a really big splash and they wanted to get a big star for their new network, I think that it would be Chris Jericho. I think that would be the guy that you would go for if you were TNA. Now, say what you want about Jericho. Has he lost a step? Yes, he's lost several steps. And his last several months in AEW were not that good. He gotten himself out of shape, probably partying too hard, and getting into some other things. But looks like the guy got himself back into shape, and he wants to have another couple runs here. And if you got a in shape, motivated Chris Jericho, he is the biggest name free agent that's on the market, and it's not even close. Like, he is a former WrestleMania main eventer. He is a WWE champion. He held the fake WCW title, but still the WCW title. He was a big time main eventer for AEW. He is the original main eventer for AEW. He is the first AEW world champion. He is a big part of the reason why that company had its early success. I don't think anybody could take that away from him. Would Chris Jericho want to make a leap to a smaller promotion like a TNA, knowing that he could actually make a significant difference for them and actually be a draw? If anybody that could be a draw on the level of the Hardys is probably Chris Jericho. I could be wrong. But for all the people that don't like Chris Jericho and that hate Chris Jericho, you cannot deny the fact that he's a star. His star dimmed significantly while in AEW. But what happens when you go away for a while and you end up somewhere new? You get regenerated. You get rejuvenated. If I were TNA, and I had the opportunity to bring in Chris Jericho, I'm taking that opportunity. I feel the same way about Braun Strowman. I think that he's not ever going to give you a great wrestling match, but he can come in and be an Andre the Giant style figure. They could use him much like ECW used 911 and they used Psycho Sid whenever he went there, or Sid Vicious. Just a big monster that comes in and beats people up every now and then. I think that would be a good get for them. Now, other than that, those are the only two big names. People, I saw Killer Cross. I don't. Killer Cross isn't a star. Just sorry. I just watched Killer Cross recently, and he was wrestling in front of 85 people in MLW. Right. Actually, no, I'll take it back. The MLW in Charleston had a good crowd, probably 200 or 300 people, but Killer Cross is not a big star. He never really he was on the main roster in the WWE, but he never really broke through to where they took him seriously as a star. And I think a lot of the momentum that he had there towards the end when he was getting pushed out of the WWE was generated by the media, because he's friends with the media. He's friends with a lot of, he's a nice guy. Everybody likes the guy. Everybody roots for the guy. I don't think that he has anything that TNA would want. I don't think that he could bring anything to TNA that they can get anything out of. And when he left TNA before, and Tommy Dreamer is like the guy that's still around, and I think Bravo was around back then too. Him and Scarlett left on such a sour note. I don't think they would want to go down that road again. So I don't think it would be good for TNA. I don't think that he has anything to offer TNA, and I would not suggest bringing in Killer Cross. Like, the guy just can't go. I mean, it just is what it is. Let me see. Eddie has some ideas. He said, no big stars, but Manders, Tankman, Richard Holiday, Trevor Lee, Starboy, LeBron Cozone, and Titus Alexander. So I like Manders and Trevor Lee here. And LeBron Cozone, he's a guy here out of the Carolinas. He works with DPW. Titus Alexander, I think he's a West Coast guy. And I also like a guy named Kevin Blackwood. I would like to see them give him a shot. And it'd be nice if they got some like true heavyweights. That'd be cool. And then also you got, Lena Cross, they missed out on her. AEW signed her up. And so they missed out on her, but there's several female talents out there. Miyu Yamashita from Japan is somebody that they've had in before, and I thought has shined. I thought has shined when she's been there. You got Nikki Blackheart, who is making a name for herself on the indies. She is not particularly a good wrestler right now. She's green. But TNA should be early on talent like that instead of being too late like they were with Lena Cross. Like Lena Cross, they had her in, and they just couldn't lock the deal down. She held out for AEW, and then she got what she wanted. She's in AEW now, so kudos to her. But I think that there's several talents out there like that, and I think that they should go after Bozilla and make Bozilla, one of the cornerstones of their knockouts division. She's got a great look. She can work. I saw her have a really good match with Megan Bain recently, and I think it might have been over WrestleMania weekend, I think. And she's been working predominantly in Japan, and I know that she's somebody that is on AEW's radar. It'd be nice for them to take somebody away from AEW, and see if they can compete for talent and see what they really got cooking. Alter said, think it's too late for TNA to give Hammerstone another shot. I would say never on that, but I don't know what happened with him, man, because I like Hammerstone. I think Hammerstone's awesome. And they had him in there and they lost him. And I don't know why. And I'll never understand it. And maybe he just it wasn't the right fit. I don't know. He's doing his thing back in MLW, but I like Hammerstone, and I wish they would have kept him around. Let's see. Hold on. You might see Gabby Forza in the new year. I don't know who that is. Who's Gabby Forza? I don't think I've heard of her. Let's see. Nicholas Riley says, would like the King Bees for the Knockouts division. I think they had the King Bees in. They did some jobs at one point, I thought, for them. So the King Bees were in. I think they were the former NWA tag team champions, if I'm not mistaken. Bear Bronson's wife. Okay. Hey, if she can work, bring her. I like, Bear Bronson is somebody that I meant to mention. I mentioned him on Twitter. So it looks like he's going to be in this weekend in El Paso, by all accounts. Hold on. I think I might have had a friend that was on the plane with him. I think. Was it Bear Bronson? I need to ask him if it was Bear Bronson that he was on the plane with. Yeah, no, it might not have been Bear Bronson, but somebody was like, I think the report was that I think Fightful had the report that Bear Bronson was coming. Now, I'll be honest, I had not seen a lot of Bear Bronson, and I made sure to do a little bit of research because he's coming in, and once TNA signs someone, I try to go take a look at them. And so, for any independent talent, I know I've had some independent wrestlers watch the show before, and a lot of them follow me on Twitter. Word of advice: put a highlight reel and pin it to the top of your profile. Make it easy for people to figure out who you are. But Bear Bronson was a part of Bear, and I think Bear Bronson did do that, but there were some other people that I was looking at that didn't do that. So I just want to get that out there. He is he was in Bear Country, and then his tag team partner got jammed up on domestic violence thing and got fired from AEW, and then that really killed his run there in AEW. And I guess maybe guilt by association. I don't think they anybody treated him like that, but like once the act was over, like he was lost, and so he essentially got pushed out of AEW. Well, he's been really making a name for himself on the indies as the deathmatch wrestler. And I believe, can somebody in the chat, if you know this, I believe he was trained at the same place that Brian Myers trains at, right? I don't know if he's a Brian Myers student, but I think they trained at the same place. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Legacy. You just said it. Bronson is Myers' student. So there's a connection there. So it makes sense. And I watched his highlight, and then I watched one of his matches recently, and I was like, I'm not a death match guy. I don't like death matches, but I think that I think he's got something. And I'd like for them to give him a shot. Like, that's the type of guy they need to be giving a shot to. So we'll see. JMP base. Is this Joel? Is it like if this is Joel, like how many how many profiles do you have on YouTube, man? But yeah, Bear's the coach at Creative Pro. Yeah, I thought that was the case. But for sure, Bear Bronson, man like Darius, also from the UK, Michael Oku from the UK. A lot of people like him. I've seen some of his stuff lately. I think he might be a little overrated, and I think a lot of people wanted him to get signed by AEW because of a match that he had with Will Ospreay. That was one of the greatest matches I've ever seen, but I think Will Ospreay is just amazing. So, but Michael Oku is a guy that's got some buzz around him, and like I said, man like Darius. So there's lots of available talent. Here's the thing. They need to build through in the independents, build the roster through the independents. That is the cost-effective Moneyball way to do it, and then supplement through the free agency program, right? Supplement with these bigger name stars. Bear Bronson's not going to sell you a single goddamn ticket. He's just not. Okay. Probably not going to sell that many t-shirts, but if you get that guy on the show and you can tell some good stories with him, and then you put him in the ring with some bigger name stars, like Nick Nemeth or the Hardys, or, if you're able to get a Chris Jericho, and then maybe one day he becomes a big star, right? So the majority of the roster should be talent, like homegrown talents, and then you should have some WWE, AEW, like free agent, like big names, like on the town. Those are the guys that are going to anchor it and sell your tickets and get your TV ratings and sell pay-per-views and things like that. And then eventually you got to start training their replacements, and that would be the idea behind it. Great NFL teams build through the draft and supplement through free agency, and I think that they need to be able to do that. Let's see. TNA needs to cut the fat. So trim. Yeah, they definitely need to trim the fat for sure. Okay. All right, hold on. Lil Silver. TNA could possibly get AJ Styles versus Frankie Kazarian. I don't see that one happening, man. I'd love for it to happen. I just don't see it. All right, let's get to this TV show because it's after 11. I got to get to bed. Like I said, I don't think I'm doing podcasting at 11 p.m. since I get up at 5 in the morning. But let's go ahead and get to the show. So the opening match was Brooks and Dunn, accompanied by Lexus King, and he defeated the Hometown Man. So the first fucking match that they show after the big announcement that they're headed to AMC, and the first match they show after that great video package with the TNA wrestlers standing around that box that they had dug out of the Lake of Reincarnation whenever Frankie pulled it out of that lake and they announced that TNA was coming back. They still got that box, and they're in this old abandoned building, and they got, In the Air Tonight, one of the great songs ever written. And it's a remake by a female singer. It's like a rock style. I don't know who does it, but I thought it was really good. And then they immediately go into a Hometown Man match. Hometown Man lost, as he should. So he lost to Brooks and Brooks Jensen, who looks like a homeless man that wrestles in his underwear. But Brooks Jensen with the victory. He was accompanied by Lexus King, which is Brian Pillman Jr. So Brian Pillman Jr., who has never said anything interesting in his life, was on the outside. So there you go. And then we cut to a Rascals promo. I like the Treehouse. They're too long. They got 30 seconds, guys. In comedy, you got to learn when you're telling the joke too much, and you got to learn to hit the right. You got to hit the punchline at the right moment. Right. And oftentimes these Treehouse segments, because they have so much time, they just drag on and they no longer are funny. Keep them short and condensed and they can become funny. It's a ripoff of that 70s show. Go back and watch that 70s show. Great TV show. Make it more condensed and get to the punchline quicker. Okay. This is total nonstop action. So stop dragging shit out. Go boom, boom, boom. Okay. Knockouts Tag Team Champions. So Jesse McKay and Cassie Lee entered the ring, and they celebrated their win over Mila Moore and Vicky Crawford at Turning Point. And then they issued an open challenge. And then, sure enough, Tessa Blanchard and Victoria Crawford confronted the champions. And then Mila Moore came out to help ambush them. They got an attack on, but McKay and Lee fought back and then beat up the heels. So why watch the match now? So it's like, no reason to watch it. It tells me that Tessa Blanchard is winning the tag titles, by the way. Because I don't know that the Inspiration's signed here. We'll see. I think something missing with the Inspiration. When they were around the first time, I thought they were really good. And just since they've been back, they're not as over as they used to be. Sometimes time does good things for acts that haven't been around in a long time, and like they come back and all of a sudden they're way over than they ever were before. That's not happening with these two. I don't know what it is, but something's missing. It's not clicking with them. I could see TNA wanting to put the belts on Blanchard and Mila Moore. Victoria Crawford, I don't think she should be in the company. but she's part of the act. I don't think she should be wrestling. She's not any good. Mila Moore needs the repetitions, and being Tessa's tag team partner might be a good thing as far as her in-ring skills go. Out of the ring skills, I don't know. Probably not, but in-ring skills here for sure. But and then TNA Director of Authority Santino appeared with Macklin, the Hardy Boys, and Cedric Alexander, and he's pumping them up for the big main event against the NXT Stars. And then we get a number one contenders match for the Knockouts World Championship. Xia Brookside ultimately defeated Danny Luna, so she's going to be taking on Lei Ying Li at Final Resolution tomorrow night. And so Danny Luna tried to use a chain, and Indy Hartwell interfered by stopping Luna, distracted her, and then allowed Brookside to get her with a roll-up, which is you get one or two of those a night. I was looking forward to this match, and I don't know if it was the crowd or if it was just too long or what, but I thought that this match just drug on, and it was another thing where they just couldn't get to the point. I don't know. Did anybody like this match? And I could just be way off. Maybe I was just distracted, but I just felt like something was missing during this match. And I was looking forward to it because like Danny Luna rules, and look, Xia Brookside's like okay. If she's in there with the right talent, I thought Danny would be that talent that they can have a really good match. And I thought at points it was pretty good, but I thought the whole thing just was flat. Again, it could be that they were on their third day of a 3-day taping block, and that's what it was. But just the match was tough, I thought. Afterwards, Lei Ying Li came out and applauded Brookside's victory, expressing respect and promising. Oh, she didn't come out. It was a backstage thing. I'm reading off. Whoever wrote this was wrong, but she was backstage and said that it's her best friend, and she's going to fight her best friend to find a resolution, and they're going to shake hands. So there you go. TNA injury report presented by Bioflex. Updates included Mike Santana, Tessa Blanchard, upper body. Were they talking about Jugs? Maybe. I don't know. Was that the upper? I don't know. Indy Hartwell, contusion. And the Rascals, Wentz and Desmond Xavier are not cleared, but they will be in 24 hours, apparently. So, and then we get to a singles match. Mike Santana beat the shit out of Robert Stone via pinfall with a spin the block finisher. So this NXT thing's dead already, man. Like, why is Robert Stone? So Robert Stone's the manager, right? Like, am I wrong? Like, isn't he the manager? Why is he wrestling already? Shouldn't he be like the chicken shit that's constantly running away and like talking shit to Santana? And then eventually Santana beats up one of the guys. And after he beats him up, like the prize is that he gets Robert Stone alone for like 10 minutes or something like that. Like, I know it's old school, it's Bill Watts booking, but Mike Santana's first match against these guys, he beats up the manager. What are we doing, man? But Santana he cut a really good promo afterwards, and he said that he's in demon mode and he's coming after everybody. So there you go. All right. Now, Frankie Kazarian promo. He said that he's vowing to end JDC's existence, calling him a mid-carder and a jobber, and basically told the truth about JDC's entire existence outside of one match with Chris Jericho. So, and then we go to the first class penthouse. I didn't like this segment, and I'll tell you why. Why are AJ Francis and Rich Swann already breaking up or teasing a breakup? They just got back together. Rich Swann got fired because he was, got shit-faced and tried to break into somebody's house or something like that. Gets himself clean. He's in great shape. They bring the guy back, and now they're already teasing dissension when they just recreated the team. AJ Francis turned on Casey Navarro, brought back Rich Swann, and now Rich Swann's already having second thoughts. That's the shit I'm telling everybody about with this creative team. There's no continuity. There's no quality assurance, quality control with it. That doesn't make any sense. If you wanted Rich Swann to come back as a babyface, he should have come back as a babyface. Don't bring him back as a heel and then a couple months later turn him babyface and work the same angle they just worked with Casey Navarro, right? That makes no sense. Now, who's Casey going to feud with when he gets back? He's too fucking small to feud with AJ Francis. So, I don't know. I don't like it, but I do think that AJ Francis and Leon Slater are gonna have a really good match. I do. AJ Francis is underrated. But they brought out Leon Slater, and Leon Slater defended himself and hyped Rich Swan's credentials because AJ was disrespecting Swan, and he said he'd retain the title. Tensions escalated. Francis slapped a champagne glass from Slater's hand, and Slater struck back, but Francis laid him out while posing with the X Division belt. So, yep, they're going to be wrestling tomorrow. And then we get to a system promo. Alicia Edwards alongside Moose, Brian Myers, and Eddie Edwards discuss replacing JDC in the system, stressing that the new member must fully trust it. You guys know that the new member is going to be Cardona, right? Can we all agree that it's Cardona? Does anybody disagree that it's going to be Cardona? It's going to be Cardona. I'm calling my shot now. That it's going to be Cardona. Chad, I'm going to get to you guys, but they're going to do this whole to-do, and then it's going to be Cardona, and everybody's like, "Yep, thought so." JDC responded to Kazarian, accusing him of crossing a line by mentioning his wife and unlocking a more dangerous side of him ahead of Final Resolution. They did this cute thing where a motorcycle was interrupting, and he said, "I'm not even worried about that motorcycle. We're not going to cut this. We're going to keep it going. We're going to keep this rolling, right?" And then he continued to cut the promo. I think JDC is a good promo. It's just unfortunate that we didn't get to see the side of him at all the entire time. He was mostly a goof. And but he's a pretty good wrestler. The problem is he's not a main eventer, and they got him in the main event. And that's the issue. Had they been portraying him as a main eventer the last 6 months, you could buy him as a main event challenger to Frankie Kazarian. But when in reality, he doesn't belong there. And the only reason they're doing this is a gift to him as he retires. And I think that's very sweet. But it just shows you that the company is servicing each other, and they're not servicing their consumer base. They're not out for your interests. They're out for their own interests with this main event. And that's okay sometimes. Like sometimes you want to take care of a good brother. But when you got the guy, he might have won 3 singles matches and he's been in the company for like 3 or 4 years. It's like that's a fucking problem, right? And now he wants to retire because he got married, and I get that. My wife doesn't let me do shit too. Like I understand that. But that doesn't mean you get to go be the main event and get a world title match. That should be, I don't want to say the word sacred, but you should have the higher standard for that position, I think. That's just me, though. We get to the good match of the night. Mustafa Ali defeated Trey Miguel via submission. I thought this was really good, but that shouldn't be a surprise because they're 2 really good pro wrestlers. And but they're teasing or they're promoting the match tomorrow night in Final Resolution. Well, it's going to be Order 4, who just had an 8-man or a 6-man at Bound for Glory with the system where they lost. And then the Rascals beat the system at Turning Point. So Order 4 is going to win at Final Resolution, I'm pretty sure, because nobody can get over and everybody has to stay in the same position after every match. So that's what they're going to do. And then we get to the main event 8-man tag match. I thought this sucked. I was watching it intently, man. You got Lexus King, Channing Lorenzo Stacks, Tyson DuPont, and Tyreek Igwe defeated Matt Hardy, Jeff Hardy, Cedric Alexander, and Steve McIntyre pinfall. I thought the veterans in the match all looked really good. I thought the NXT guys looked terrible. They're out of position. It was super sloppy. Some of the high spots were cool. Lexus King is terrible. Doesn't belong in the ring. And I think DuPont and Igwe got some. I think they have like a high upside. I don't really see much in Stacks, to be honest with you. Now, I haven't watched a whole lot of Stacks, but just watching him in this match, yeah, it just didn't seem like the guy was going to go very far. But but anyway, that was the show. I did not think it was a very good show, and it was kind of a piss poor. I thought it was a piss poor way to have a show after the big announcement when you got all the eyeballs on you. So that's what it was. All right, let's get to the chat. I wanted to get into my prediction for January 15th at El Paso, the first night on Impact. I think we can all agree that the best way forward is for Mike Santana to wrestle Frankie Kazarian there. I think that should be the main event of the first show. during the TV tapings in El Paso this weekend, I hope that Nick Nemeth just says, instead of waiting to call my shot at a specific moment, or waiting during a match and making it a surprise, I'm calling my shot right now, and I'm going to challenge for the world title at Genesis because I'm a pay-per-view main eventer. I'm the showstopper. I'm yada yada yada, right? And he can even like call a shot and then like request his own. He can request his own gimmick match or whatever, however they want to do it. There's precedent for that because Frankie, that's what he did. He called a shot for Rebellion earlier this year. Moose called a shot for Hard to Kill a couple years ago, and so did Jordan Grace not that long ago. So there's precedent for that. You don't always have to wait till someone's beat down to cash in your briefcase. So maybe Nemeth, even as a heel, says, "I want my shot at Genesis." So now we know the main event of the first TV show is Mike Santana versus Frankie Kazarian. And the winner of that match goes to defend the title against Nick Nemeth at Genesis. I would have Mike Santana win. And after the match is over, the lights go out. And it's Chris Jericho. He hits the whatever the stupid fucking elbow he's got, whatever. Or he can hit the code breaker instead of the elbow. He hits the code breaker, and then that's how the show goes off the air. And now we have the lure of Chris Jericho at the pay-per-view coming up, and maybe sell more tickets and more pay-per-views because now Chris Jericho is going to be there. You have the main event already set, Santana versus Nick Nemeth, and you got in the background the story's playing out. What's Chris Jericho going to do? There's already a ready-made storyline for Jericho and Mike Santana because of the Jericho Appreciation Society and how that whole thing went down. So the story writes itself. All right. Let's see. Joel says the last 3 Final Resolution shows have been internal service shows I completely agree. Last matches for expiring contracts, niceties for people move on. Yeah, last year the world title match was AJ Francis versus Nick Nemeth, and it was just a make good for Francis because he worked really hard and promoted I don't think anybody in that company works as hard promoting TNA as AJ Francis, and but the thing is that I also think that he was I thought that was a good match. I thought he was a decent main eventer. Tactical playmaker. Why isn't TNA allowing Mance Warner to go full Southern Psycho? That was his selling point in the Indies. I think as he gains more trust with the creative team, they'll allow him to do more. And then if he signs a longer term contract, maybe they'd be willing to get behind him. But right now his contract ends in like June, I think. Little Silver, are they having a steel cage, Mike? Yes, in El Paso. Home of the greatest steel cage I've ever seen, which looked like they actually robbed a local house and tore their fence apart and put it together with duct tape and zip ties and made a steel cage out of it. Yes, that city is bringing back the steel cage. So we'll see. All right, Gerard says, I think we'll get Sean with some contract news tomorrow or over the weekend before and during after the shows. I get the feeling that it's going to be a big Sean Ross Sapp weekend. Get the feeling that brother's going to be busy on Fightful Select coming up. And he's probably already got a couple of tidbits pre-written ready to drop because he knows what the fuck he is doing. That's why he is the Adam Schefter of pro wrestling. I'm guarantee he's got several stories lined up ready to go for the weekend. And TNA likes giving him not like PR-wise, but like wrestlers like to give him that information and agents like to give him that information because it's good for Sean and it's good for them. It's a mutually beneficial thing. So, agents like to give Adam Schefter details on their clients' contracts and when they're coming due because it gives them negotiating power in the public, right? It's important. It's the way the business is ran. So, all right, guys, I think that's going to do it for me. I told my wife I'd be in bed 30 minutes ago. So I gotta get upstairs and get to bed. I'm pretty sure I'm going to open that door. Like the door sticks. It's a brand new fucking house, by the way. And because of where we're at, like when you buy a brand new house, like after a while, like the foundation sets and then like things start to shift a little bit. And so now like our upstairs, like the bedroom doors, they're all sticking. When before the previous owners, they weren't sticking, but they're sticking now. So every time I go into the bedroom late and I open the door, it like goes like that. It creates this big noise and wakes her up. I get massive heat. All right. Justin, you asked a question. I'm going to answer it. What what was the name you suggested earlier for creative? Write this name down. John motherfucking Muse. One of my really good friends. He is he booked on the indies. He was at one point hired to book in WCW, not to be the head booker, but to be on the creative team. And then WCW went out of business. When WCW was going to do the Big Bang, the relaunch with Eric Bischoff, and that, like, he was on that crew, and he never really got his shot because creative roles in pro wrestling are a part of a good old boy network when you're a wrestling person. But unless you go to WWE with some Hollywood credentials, and then you're in. But if you're everybody else, they're not like AEW and TNA. They're not going to Hollywood and hiring creative people. Where are they hiring from? Recycled material, right? Delirious was like a Ring of Honor guy that rode the coattails of the Young Bucks when they got hot, and then had the New Japan partnership when New Japan was hot. And so it made him look good. And then whenever that went away, everybody realized he doesn't know what the fuck he's doing. So they fired him and they put Marty Scurll in his position. Marty Scurll turns out fucking creep. He gets fired. Delirious takes back over. Ring of Honor goes out of business. I don't know if it's all his fault. I'm just saying, look at what's happening now. So give new people a chance. Give the guys at Deadlock Pro Wrestling a chance, I think. I think that would be good. All right, guys, I'm going to get out of here. And until next time, mahalo.